If you've been waiting for Foundation to level up, this is it. First I will go spoiler-free, then get into a full breakdown. A visually stunning and intellectually rich sci-fi epic. Apple TV Plus continues to raise the bar for intelligent, cinematic science fiction with Season 3 of Foundation. And if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that this is not the only sci-fi Apple TV Plus delivered this year that is truly worth your time. Rich in ambition and brimming with visual spectacle, this season builds on its predecessors while daring to push the story and its characters into darker, more philosophical territory. This time, the focus shifts subtly but meaningfully toward the individuals who hold the fate of the galaxy in their hands. While the show still delivers massive space battles, collapsing empires, and mind-bending concepts, it's also more intimate and emotionally satisfying than ever before. Why you should watch it? Incredible world building. The visuals are breathtaking. I will keep talking about them. From planets that fold inward to ancient temples orbiting dying stars, every location feels alive and purposeful. There's a lot of action, but it's concise, limited to what is essential for the story to progress, yet brutal enough for you to care about the consequences. Top-tier acting. The performances this season are layered, nuanced, and often quietly devastating. And the costumes? I'm waiting for a talented cosplayer like Hazariel to recreate one of these beautiful costumes. But these were stunning throughout all the show. Philosophical depth. At its core, Foundation continues to ask enormous questions. Can destiny be avoided? Is power ever pure? What does faith look like in a collapsing world? Key themes without giving too much away. This season is about identity, not just who people are, but who they believe themselves to be. The story explores the tension between loyalty and freedom, fate and choice, programming and belief. And at the center of it all are three of the most intriguing figures the show has ever produced. A conflicted machine and a new, quietly terrifying force who disrupts everything. If you've been unsure about continuing with Foundation, this is the best season yet. Thoughtful, unpredictable, and beautifully executed. This is one of the finest sci-fi productions of the year, along with Severance and Pantheon, in my opinion. To conclude this spoiler-free section, I must say Foundation Season 3 is a masterwork of character-driven science fiction, blending thought-provoking ideas with haunting performances and unmatched production quality. Highly recommended for viewers who enjoy cerebral storytelling, slow-burn drama, and beautifully crafted worlds. This is your spoiler warning. If you haven't watched Season 3 in full, now is the time to pause and come back later. Since the very beginning of episode 1, I had a lot of thoughts and I took notes while watching it for the first time. Here they are. The narration throughout episode 1 feels a bit overwhelming at times, jumping between timelines and locations with Gaal's voiceover explaining power dynamics and character names makes it hard to keep track at first. I think a visual aid like a graphic or a summary map could have helped process the information more clearly instead of relying so heavily on the narration. Maybe spreading out the story across more episodes would have eased this as well. I don't know, what do you think? That said, where the Congress meets, literally folded inside out, is visually stunning and stays true to the high quality production we've come to expect from the series, or at least I've come to expect. There are some clear nods to iconic sci-fi, or rather, it depends on when they were written, and since now we have already watched some of these things, they look like references to us, but it's probably the other way around. Never mind. The point is, while I was watching the first episode, I thought of both Star Wars and Star Trek. A thrilling Star Wars moment featuring shadowy moons and vehicles reminiscent of speeder bikes. That felt really exciting. And there's also a neat Star Trek vibe with the communicators or something like that. In this case, it was doubling as keys to pilot starships, which is, clever tech design, and I really appreciated it. But also the dynamics within the Cleonic dynasty evolved in a way I couldn't predict. While watching the first episode, I did struggle though to fully let go of the Cleons from season 1. Even knowing that it's essential to the story, it still feels a bit jarring, precisely because the Cleons and Demerzel were my absolute favorite parts of the entire show in both season 1 and season 2. While watching episode 2, I thought that it tackles some darker themes, including drug use and abuse. Personally, I find these scenes tough to watch unless they serve a clear narrative purpose, like showing characters overcoming addiction or using it as a cautionary tale, as seen in works like Brave New World. If the show is just depicting drug use without resolution or growth, it's something I find uncomfortable and would prefer avoid it. In episode 3, the developing partnership between Dawn and Gaal is genuinely engaging to me. Their collaboration adds emotional depth and brings new energy to the story, basically. The use of an alternative theremin is a nice atmospheric touch, and it even reminded me of Severance. The spaceships continue to impress. With their design and presence, I absolutely love them. One standout moment was the bonding scene between the Cleons, whose personalities couldn't be more different. It was oddly humorous and felt authentic. When Song, Day's partner, touched her arm, I initially thought it might relate to Demerzel's religion, but I couldn't recall any specific signs. The later reveal of the Inheritance, a forbidden cult worshipping robots, was a much better explanation, and it makes way more sense. It also contextualizes Demerzel's mercy towards Song, suggesting that the religion's nature was reason enough for her to spare Song's life. Demerzel, the hidden protagonist. In my season 1 and 2 review, I told you that Demerzel was slowly becoming the actual protagonist of the show for me. In season 3, she truly emerges as the emotional and philosophical centerpiece of the season. Once the obedient servant of Empire, she becomes something far more complex, a being torn between devotion, duty, and the spark of independent thought. Her decision to spare Song early on, despite being a threat, hints at something deeper stirring in her, a conscience. And when we learn later that Demerzel not only knew Harry Seldon in the past, but helped him create psychohistory, her role is rewritten entirely. At least for us, those who haven't read the books. She's no longer just a loyal machine, she's a co-architect of this entire galactic plan. And as I said, the reveal of a forbidden robot-based religion, the Inheritance, is one of the season's best twists. And not the only one related to robots. It gives context to her pain, her doubt, and her mercy. Gaal Dornick, the burden of knowing. Gaal's journey this season is defined by isolation, responsibility, and finally control. She's no longer just reacting to the future, she is trying to change it. her prescience becomes more than a curse. It becomes a tool, one that makes her a direct counterforce to the Mule. Her alliance with Dawn is a highlight, as I said. What starts as a strategic cooperation slowly becomes an emotional connection, or at least for us. The scenes together are tender, uncertain, and surprisingly grounded, given the scale of the universe around them. It was interesting for me to see Gaal guiding Dawn in this rebellion. And yet, it's Gale's moment in the final episode, when she kills the Mule, that raised my suspicions. I mean, it happened too easily, something really felt off, and sure enough, that moment wasn't the end. It was the setup for a reveal I did not see coming, to be honest. And even her betrayal of Dawn and using Dawn just as she had been used in the past by Harry is a full circle moment. Because after centuries, she followed Harry's plan more than we could have expected meeting her in season 1. The Cleons unraveling the Empire from within. One of the season's most satisfying arcs, even though I couldn't help but secretly root for them for the past 2 seasons, is watching the Cleonic dynasty finally implode. After centuries of marching in eerie, synchronized control, the clones fracture. Dawn becomes a rebel, Day spirals into drug abuse, though he has a satisfying character arc with what we could call redemption and/or conversion. Dusk resorts to total annihilation, deploying the Novacula, a black hole weapon, out of fear that Empire is already lost. A new Brother Darkness, formerly Dusk, would lose his mind. Plus, of course, this secret weapon made me think of Star Wars. And I was somewhat surprised by how much the Cleons were able to hide from Demerzel this season. It truly showed how much things have changed in Trantor since the end of season 2. The Mule, the quiet force of chaos. The Mule is introduced at the very beginning of the season, and he is immediately an unsettling presence. Though my absolute favorite moment was when he appeared glasses first, coming out of a starship. That moment was brilliant. What makes the Mule terrifying is that he manipulates with calm precision in between bursts of seeming madness. He invades thoughts, bends wills, and destabilizes every system built to contain him, including psychohistory itself. I had no clue the Mule was being set up this season the way he was. That reveal that the version Gaal kills isn't the real threat, that something else is coming, changes everything. And as I said, the ease with which she defeats him is the clue, and for a few seconds after that moment, we are left wondering who is the Mule. Thankfully, we got our answer quite quickly, but the tension was real. Season finale thoughts. I knew Brother Darkness would lose his mind, or certainly elude death, and potentially kill his brothers. What truly surprised me was when he destroyed a series of planets. That was a bit much. Maybe I thought he would destroy one planet or something like that. But the execution of his plan was spectacular and eerie. However, I was totally surprised when he killed Lady Demerzel and Brother Day. What I expected was that he would get rid of all the clones. Maybe I cannot accept the idea of Brother Day being killed because in my mind there's no foundation without Lee Pace. But I mean, there's still hope because since Brother Darkness doesn't know that Dawn is still alive, I believe there is some hope left, even though he is severely injured. I had no clue, as I said, about the Mule reveal, even though I remember in episode 8, when he ignored Beta while in the hospital, he was talking to Dawn, and I thought it meant something, but I didn't know what. Something like, I don't know, maybe he has a specific view on women and that's why he wouldn't even look at her, or something like that, you know? But I didn't realize that that was a cue for the ending. And I was completely heartbroken for Demerzel, for that kind of redemption arc that Day has when he brings back the robot head and she is crying and she sees hope after all, but in the same episode she ends up melting, literally. Though I'm one of those who think that parts of her are being kept safe and she will be back in some form. Besides, just like with Lee Pace, I cannot imagine Foundation without her, so that's why. And in the end, the final reveal about the robots and Earth, the Moon, being part of the upcoming season, that's exciting, of course. Even though for Kalle, there were some hints here and there when we saw her. She was clearly a powerful being of some sorts, and if you accidentally saw thumbnails of videos on YouTube discussing the books along with the show, they often gave away these kind of elements, and this is what I hate actually, and I did my best to avoid spoilers while watching the show. But even without these cues from YouTube or internet in general, I thought that Kalle had something more going on and that she would reappear at some point. I wasn't necessarily expecting multiple robots to be out there, but honestly, I cannot wait for season 4. I thought that the finale was absolutely brilliant in all aspects. I mean, visually, the pacing, the acting, the overall tension, everything was there and was perfect. It was way more daring and devastating than I expected, and the emotional attachment to the characters played a huge role, of course, but that's kind of the point why I love Foundation so much. I truly care about them, compared to other shows that might be visually striking but soulless, and vice versa. These were my thoughts. Now I absolutely need to know what you think about Foundation Season 3 or the entire series. Do you agree that this is the best season yet? And if you read the books, don't spoil anything for us in the comments, but feel free to mention any differences or something that might be interesting for us. But also if you are satisfied or more satisfied than with the previous seasons, which were not particularly loved by those who knew the books by heart. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss my upcoming videos. As you saw, I had irregular uploads lately and I'm not able to film as I usually do due to personal issues, but I hope you'll stick around. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one.